Lush, and I'm here at the Hub Culture Pavilion in Davos. Really excited now to be joined by a repeat customer, Valerie Germain, who is a managing partner at Heidrick & Struggles. Tell me about the agility that you think CEOs have to have when we're dealing with a kind of constantly changing atmosphere.
One of the things that we've heard over and over again this year at Davos, and last year as well, but particularly this year, is there is so much that's changing in the world. There is so much that's unpredictable, that CEOs are being asked over and over again to react to things that they might not have seen coming, or that are impacting their businesses in different ways. That's taking a level of agility and adaptability that now needs to become the new normal in terms of their skill set.
So I know you have a new report out. Tell me some of the highlights that you found in terms of leadership and what you think is important.
So the CEO report, which we did in conjunction with Said Business School at the University of Oxford, was a report that interviewed in person over 150 CEOs around the world, all industries, all geographies. And there were some interesting conclusions that came out of it, but largely these are from the CEOs themselves. That aspect that you asked about with regards to adaptability, agility, the fact that there's constant change and uncertainty, that we're in a very interconnected world today that's demanding a different kind of communication from skill sets, and that each one of those different stakeholders that are out there are looking to relate to the CEO, the company, in a very different way than existed 10 years ago.
So tell me about these stakeholders, because it feels like with social media, you can be connected to anyone and anybody could be a stakeholder. Isn't that kind of paralyzing?
Well, it's paralyzing, or it's a great opportunity, right? The ability to reach a customer, the ability to generate a new idea, the ability to try things out is now real time. So there's a negative side to it for some who didn't grow up in that level of transparency. But there's also a very positive side, because you can now have direct communication with your customers. You can see your detractors, you can see your supporters, and you can do all of that real time. So the hyperconnectivity has pluses and minuses to it, but it's a world I think that we're all learning how to navigate, maybe some quicker than others.
So you and I have talked about diversity before.
We have.
I have to say that Hub Culture, I am doing particularly well with my interviews of women. I'm just going to say that.
I'm very glad. Congratulations.
Thank you. But I'm wondering what progress you've seen and whether you're seeing people take on board, on their boards or in their management, as many women as you think they should.
So we stood here last year and we talked about diversity, and we talked about the fact that we weren't seeing enough progress. And I'm very pleased to stand here today and say I think we've seen some progress in the last 12 years, including where we're standing. The number of women as delegates is up this year. The number of sessions and programs, private and public events, is up this year, focused on diversity and parity. That we're seeing in our board work in particular, the demand for gender diversity on the board has increased, and companies are increasingly looking to find to expand into different ways of thinking in order to be able to make that happen. So there's a long way to go, but I think we're seeing some of the momentum, including here.
So that's all incredibly positive, but what keeps you up at night, Valerie?
It's a good question, many things, but what keeps me up at night is that in a world where the pace of change is happening so fast, there are some things that don't appear to be changing quickly enough. And we could take that to diversity, we could take it to other topics, but that paradox, if you will, of the speed with which things are happening, the speed with which things are coming at us, and yet there's so much that isn't changing that needs to.
Okay, besides diversity, what else would you point to?
I think there is an underlying question about trust in leadership, and I don't mean that from a business perspective. I mean that trust in governments, trust in political leaders, trust in leadership. That aspect of trust in the world, in every country, is a challenge as we think about being able to solve some of the geopolitical issues, some of the business issues that are out there, and it's a disconnect for me.
Valerie, thank you so much for coming by the Hub Culture Pavilion here in Davos, and I'm Edie Lush.